You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks and Zach Bechtold. We hope you enjoy this week's show, and you can find out more about us by going online at beardedtheologians.com, where you can pick up a few t-shirts, listen to a few old episodes, and find ways that you can connect with us. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold. And today we have a special guest on the podcast. In fact, a first for us. We've had coffee roasters and authors and all kinds of people on the podcast. But today we have with us a master brewer. We have Austin McIlroy, who is the master brewer for Cabin Boys Brewery out in Oklahoma. Austin, thanks for being with us, man.
Hey, thanks for having us, or having me. Sorry.
Absolutely. We're super pumped to have you on. We're big fans of your product. In fact, I'm sure we'll get into it, but you've got a product that shares a name with us. And so
That's right.
We always appreciate that.
Yeah, which is probably why I had the gumption to force myself into being invited onto your podcast.
That's perfect. It's something we've been wanting to do for a long time. So it just worked out well.
Yeah.
Well, Austin, would you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? You know, who you are, where you're from,
Sure.
what your perfect date is, you know, all the good stuff.
Sure. I'm Austin McIlroy. Let's see. I am born and raised Tulsa, so that's where the brewery is. My wife and I have lived in many different places on Earth, 4 different continents, to be quite honest. But we started, let's see, I'll talk a little bit of history of how I got into the brewing industry. She encouraged my best friend and I to get a hobby. When she came home one night, he was a roommate with us early on in our marriage here in Jinx. And she came home to us just watching Netflix. And she said, "Hey, you two are way too much interesting people to waste your life in front of a TV. So get a hobby." And we were like, "Well, we actually just watched a documentary about being able to make beer in the house. How about that?" And she was like, "I love beer. Let's do it." So that's kind of how the hobby started. And then my wife and I moved to Japan to teach English. And we, over there at the time, this would have been 12 years ago. Golly, it's a long time. There were really no craft breweries in Japan. There was one. So we had one craft brewery in our hometown where we were, which was fortunate because it was one of the only ones in Japan at the time. But we started homebrewing over there with a cohort of friends, and really found that we could create a community around it. We even maybe possibly illegally distributed our beer to some bars in our neighborhood, and figured out that there was a lot of meaning and a lot of really cool aspects to not just making beer at your house or anything like that, but there was this notion that it really drew people together, and we were good at it. Now, I won't say that our homebrewed beer was professional beer at all. I was probably a really bad homebrewer, to be quite honest. But nonetheless, it was really fun, really creative. And so the craft beer boom had basically, it was on its tail end, but it felt like it was just starting here in Oklahoma. And so we decided to move back from Japan when I got accepted into the World Brewing Academy after deciding, okay, we're going to start a business around this. And outside of making 2 gallons or 5 gallons of beer at a time, I had no other experience than that. And it was either go get hired by a brewery and worked for a few years and get your feet wet and then start. But the notion for us was we didn't have that kind of time. We were too far behind the eight ball on being able to just really gain experience rather than going to a formal education. So got accepted into school. Don't know if you guys knew, but you can go to school to learn how to brew beer. The World Brewing Academy is considered one of the best brewing schools in the world. It certainly has the widest breadth of training brewers. My class had 13 different countries represented in our 22 people that graduated with me. And so I've got friends all over the globe. So that's one of the more powerful things of the whole ordeal, because school was like drinking from a fire hose for me. I was one of two homebrewers that got accepted that year. And all the rest of the brewers had many years under their belts. So they were probably soaking up a lot more nuanced nuggets of information than we were. So I'm a little jealous of that, because I was learning things like, oh, what does the word enzyme mean? Or what is this yeast strain that I've never heard of before? Or why are we paying attention to malt so much? And things like that. But that really helped me grasp the actual physicality of making beer on a commercial level, and really expanded our ability to not only start a brewery, but also I got to, have the knowledge to engineer my own equipment, how to facilitate that and put it all together. So it was money and time well spent, and it was just a blast. And so coming back after the World Brewing Academy. So the World Brewing Academy is, back then it was in Chicago at Siebel Institute of Technology, which is America's, or used to be America's oldest brewing school. It just recently, sadly, moved to Canada because of all the things in the world. And then Duman's Academy, which is just south of Munich. And so my Master Brewer certificate actually comes from the city of Munich, and not my school. So, I mean, the school's name is on the certificate itself as where I went, but the actual Master Brewership is from the city of Munich. So, which is pretty rad.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So that's let's say a 5-minute synopsis of how I became a brewer.
So what led you into like creating Cabin Boys? Like how did you land there, and with all like the name and all that stuff as well?
Yeah, so Matt, you've been to the tap room and you've seen a lot of wood in our tap room, and so I also am a hobbyist woodworker. It seems like every third year I get back into it. But my best friend, who also started homebrewing with me about 3 or 4 years before we started homebrewing together, actually built a cabin with my dad out on my parents' property. And so we were nicknamed the Cabin Boys, which was apropos. And so our namesake is an actual log cabin that we built ourselves, which still kind of blows my mind that it's still standing. But it is there, and the community and safe haven that encompasses out there, we wanted to emulate within our brewery. And so when I asked Lisa, who is my wife and also our president and marketing director here at the brewery, I asked her, well, we're home brewing. What should we put on our bottles? Because we're going to be handing these out to friends. And she was like, oh, well, you guys are the Cabin Boys. You should put that on your bottles. And for one, you're way too immature to ever be called men. So there you go. And the name stuck. And the funny thing is Cabin Boys as a company is actually 75% owned by women. So
That's really cool.
yeah, my mom and my wife own 75% of the company, and I own the other 25%. So
Nice.
that's it's kind of a funny ordeal.
So
That's awesome. And something similar that Matt and I share of our wives are like, please go get a hobby and do something useful. And your boys, you're just children.
That's right.
I love that.
Well, and now she's really scared to go tell me to go get a hobby because I turn it into a business.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have what really kind of connected, well, one, I've always loved you guys' brewery, your space. Like it's a very communal space and that sort of thing. You guys do a lot in a sense of community, not only in your brewery, but also out and about in Tulsa, being connected into the community of Tulsa. But like one of the things I love about you all is probably one of my favorite beers and all my beers that I drink. And I live in Colorado, so I have some luxury that some don't.
Yeah.
That your Bearded Theologians is probably one of my favorite beers ever. And literally, when I'm back in Oklahoma, one of the things I do is make sure I load up on it. And I share with Zach or I share with others how great it is. And so, like, tell us, how did you land on the name? Because you guys, we were out before you all were, and then all of a sudden we got this. I kept getting texts from friends who were going to your brewery about like, hey, there's this Bearded Theologians beer, and I was like, well, I need to go check this out because if it's that, like, it better be good, or else, or we may have to actually have a conversation. But no, it's an amazing beer. But like, how did you come about the name?
Well, firstly, thanks for not giving us a cease and desist. But two different industries, so we're not competing. But no, it's so when I was home brewing, it was a beer that I made with a friend who's now, oh gosh, I think he's in Ohio now, but he was in North Carolina. But he was the guy in college that introduced me to great German beer. He was the guy that drugged me out to Oktoberfest and this, that, and the other, and so that was really cool. And he is a master of theology, and so when we made a beer together, and it was the only beer that has ever been made out at the cabin, actually, and that has a really fun story in and of itself. But I was like, well, you're a bearded theologian. Let's just call it that. And it in the original version of it in that time was an imperial porter. Um, and when we started the brewery, I liked the name, and I'm glad that I did, because it is still to this day our number one selling beer in the brewery, which is crazy to me because it's a quad. But where the quad came in, a Belgian quad, so it's a Trappist style or emulating a Trappist style beer. I chose that style because I was like, with this kind of name, it needs to be in the realm of that Trappist world. It needs to have the story to go behind it. It can't just be this random beer. And thankfully, it's extremely well received. It's a wonderful beer. And the actual origin of the recipe development, I sat down with the master brewer of a brewery called La Trappe in the Netherlands, had lunch with him for about an hour and a half to 2 hours after touring his brewery for a few hours. Got to pick his brain of a few hundred years of experience making quads. And so that was really a cheat code in being able to bring back an old world style that would stand head and shoulders over what was being made at the time in Oklahoma and America. Because at the time, and nothing against craft breweries that were making quads at the time, they were mostly making them because they could make it 14, 15%. And our quad emulates more or less that robust quality flavor rather than an alcohol content race. And so I think that that's why it really hit off really well. It hits this perfect middle ground. So yeah, it's a little background of the Bearded Theologian beer.
Yeah. We love that. Somewhere in our photos, we have a picture of Matt and I in the brewery holding the Bearded Theologian sign. Uh,
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so
yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's fun. Um, one of the things that Matt and I do this, and it started sitting in breweries, having these kinds of conversations with one another, and then expanded outwards. But something that we have noticed and appreciated, and being in your brewery, it's there, and you named it earlier of community, and that's something that we have found vital in all the communities that we've lived in. I live in Montana and have lived all over. Breweries often become that place of community. And so could you talk a little bit about how you've seen that grow there in Tulsa and just in your brewery and in your life? And you named it earlier as being important. So could you talk a little bit about the community aspect of the brewery?
Yeah, so our slogan's crafted for community. And we base a lot of our company ethos in partnering with a lot of different companies around town, such as, let's say the surface level of it is we'll partner with a company and make a beer with them. And we have a lot of those partnerships around town, which really lets us have an avenue to make friends and really envelop that relationship within what both companies want to achieve. And a beer is just a great excuse to have that relationship. And so we've got probably about 17 to 18, maybe even 20 this year under our belt that we will have going on a yearly basis. So on a surface level, that's really, how we can connect using a product to other companies and really mesh well in that way. But what we want to emulate within our brewery and our tap room is to allow a safe space for family and friends to come and enjoy themselves outside of their normal day-to-day basis, and giving them an avenue of safety and the ability to have a space that's not necessarily technologically bound. If you've ever been in our tap room, we don't have TVs. We don't. For the longest time, we didn't even have Wi-Fi until we caved on that. But our aspect of the whole ordeal is bringing people together around a table in an old-fashioned way so that they can open up and become actual friends. And that has definitely been achieved, and that goal has been achieved in our brewery, such as, we had friends meet, then we had them date for the first time here, and then they got married here. So we have that whole encompassing story, and that's only one. And we weren't really actually the facilitators of it, other than providing a space that allowed them to do that. We didn't really, when the wedding happened, it was like, oh, cool, we have a wedding reservation. That's really cool. And then we heard the story after the fact. And now that couple is bringing their kids into the brewery, which is, that's what we really desired when we named our slogan "Crafted for Community." And outside of other things like that, when we can and when we are able to get our staff involved with volunteering, we really want to spill back into what is going on within the ethos of Tulsa. And so whether that's, volunteering at the food bank, cleaning up trash around parks, or we've done all sorts of things like that. I don't know how many volunteer hours we have under our belt, but it is quite a few. The bummer of it right now is, people are so out of the swing after all the COVID onslaught and recovering from that. And being able to orchestrate those kinds of things has been a little bit more difficult, which is interesting. But nonetheless, we have a lot of really rich relationships surrounding us, and which I think is why, even in such a difficult time for craft breweries, we're still standing and have a good brand behind us.
That's something that I've noticed. We lost a ton of craft breweries in the last year, in the last couple of years, right? Big ones.
Yeah,
and a
huge
lot of,
one.
yeah. And something that I've noticed, the ones that aren't having to really have that larger conversation of can we still do this, are the ones that are doing what you're doing, building a community, not just an insular community, right? Like just getting people into the brewery, but reaching back out into your area and the communities that surround you in a significant way. That's exactly what the church should be doing, right? The ones that are doing well are doing that very thing. It's not just about getting people butts and pews, right? Butts and bar stools. It's about going back out into the community and seeing and hearing where people are at need and where you can help and reach out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So tell me how you guys are involved with the church and how this podcast is, a great platform, I think, to talk to people that maybe not normally would walk through a church door. But how is that? How have you used this as a vehicle to kind of represent something that the church really wants to speak out into the world?
Man, we've been doing this for 10 years, and I think you're the first person to ask us a question.
100%.
But that's a great question. When we started this podcast, the intent was to model for people, like, what does it mean for people to sit around and have conversation about church or life or theology or whatever in a healthy way that wasn't like really one-sided, or even like how to have those conversations even when we disagree. Like I think sometimes the podcast avenue can be an echo chamber for those that want to be in certain areas, and we try to cast a wide net as best as we can. And we've always wanted to model that. That's always kind of been the foundation of, we wanted to model this, but we also wanted to show people that the church can be more fun than what it could be, or what it's seen on TV, or it's not as we've never had a campaign for money on the podcast.
Sure.
This is an act of love, or a hobby, as our wives may call it. But we've also, like, in the last few years, for Zach and I, we're both United Methodist pastors, and that means that we move a lot. And so one of the things that happens is, when we get into a new church, the church will actually go back and look at our old podcasts to see kind of where we are or who we are, or they get to know us a little bit. And that's always kind of a way to connect into new communities, whether, wherever we're at, or even across the world. We've had people connect in and use some of our series that we have. We have occasional series every now and then that people want to use for studies or whatnot. We've had seminary professors use us as an example in their book as how to do ministry in a new way. We were doing the live Zoom podcast thing before it became a thing. And then COVID hit, and The other thing we've always tried to do, one of the things that we've really enjoyed doing, is getting people on that are in spaces that either that people wouldn't know otherwise, or connect in otherwise, or even like this. Like there was there was no, without a doubt, if you noticed, without a doubt, didn't even hesitate inviting you on the podcast,
Yeah.
because it's just one of those things. Like, we want to show the world that the church is actually bigger and better than what it really is portrayed in certain avenues, in a healthy way. And it's always crazy, one who listens or who I'll come across on the street or something, like, hey, we've heard of your podcast. And like, I don't know you. Like, I don't know you because I only know what I see on this end. I don't know, the numbers only tell a small part of the story. But we've had an amazing experience with this. It's been interesting to show people how the church can be a loving, relevant place that isn't this judgmental, cast you asunder. I mean, yeah, I mean, we know of communities. I mean, you live in Tulsa, so you know just as well about the communities that would definitely not even set foot in your brewery, and let alone like, I always love it especially when I'm back in Oklahoma in breweries, how many people like are shocked that the pastor's in a brewery. And I'm like, well, that's kind of where people are that I like to be around. So like, that's my space. And so I don't, we've always just enjoyed just trying to show people, like our whole kind of mantra has been just to show people what positive, good theological conversation can look like. And it's not even just like the nuts and bolts of things. Like, we really like having the conversations like this where we're talking about community and like where you guys come from. And maybe you'll get 3 or 4 more people that will actually come into the brewery now, because we have, like, we don't know how many real listeners we have. The analytics can be a little screwed, but there are people who literally connect us with you, and nobody connects you with us, so we know that we're winning in that way. And so I don't know, it's just been a lot of fun. Zach, what do you like?
Yeah, I mean, Matt and I have never lived in the same state, much less the same town. We met, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago on a trip. We were taking a group of young people to the Philippines, and met in the airport in Dallas for the very first time, and had this relationship online. And really, this was birthed out of a really traumatic experience going to the Philippines, and then coming back and hearing all of the rhetoric of like, social media, online relationships can't happen. There's nothing good about this. And we're like, no, like, we found something here that's real and deep, and much more than a friendship. And so we wanted to show what that looks like. One, that you can have these real robust relationships even when you don't live in the same place, but also just good, healthy, helpful conversation. And it's brought us into the room with people like you, Austin, which is awesome.
It's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I applaud you guys. It's not always easy to go against, I wouldn't call it go against the grain,
Right.
but definitely pushing an envelope that could make people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that is certainly something that I have dealt with a lot in my life. As you know, I announced to the family. So my background in the theological space is grew up in the Church of Christ. So if you know anything about the Church of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
alcohol was the number one devil, probably outside of sex.
Right.
And so that you know, announcing that I was going to be a professional brewer was, had a lot of questions and grumbles, and probably some of my family thought I was going to burn in hell for the rest of my life. There's probably still people that think that, but what I noticed is if you stick to your guns and really stay true to what you're saying and don't deviate from that, they start to notice, oh, well, this is something that can be positive. This isn't something that is only a deterrent of good things. And here, don't get me wrong, alcohol can be bad. But most of the time, if it's treated correctly, it can be awesome. It's one of the only products that I have ever seen draw people around a table from all ages, from multiple different countries, and not know each other, and then walk away from that table and be friends. Food can do that, certainly. It's so much harder for some reason. And yeah, I don't know what it is about beer other than, it might uh, inebriate you enough to be confident to become friends. Um, but that's certainly not our goal here at the brewery. It's I've Lisa and I have always said, if we're making good enough beer, that is the reason that you came to the brewery. But once it's at the table, if it's good enough, it can be forgotten, but it may keep you there. And so world class beer does that, which is really interesting to me. So I applaud you guys for going against the grain, because I certainly have fought that, not fought it, but definitely struggled with it for the majority of the last decade.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's where
And oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that I think one of the things, and it draws me, is the reason why every time I'm in Tulsa, if I have an opportunity to stop by, I'm stopping by.
I
The
appreciate
brewery has everything to do with hospitality, and that's like the way that you treat people when you guys walk in. And like, I can't tell you, like, I come in so sporadically, but yet there are people there who, I mean, they don't know who I am, but they kind of act like I don't. I mean, they make me feel like as though I am at home. And that, like, when I go to breweries, whether it's in Denver or wherever, like that sense of hospitality to me is very important. And even when Zach and I are together and we're going to different breweries, we're like doing different things, and like we always have fun with, like, if we can have fun with the brewery, the more chances are we are likely to come back when we're in town again. Like we have to go to Salt Lake City here in September, and we already kind of know where we're going to go because we've been to a couple of breweries and we know the places that like took care of us or talked to us about their beer or like about who they are. Like that stuff's important. Like, and that's something.
Can I give you a suggestion in
Yeah.
Salt Lake?
Sure.
Please.
Have you been to Templeton Family?
No.
Oh,
They have some of the best beer on the west side of the mountains.
okay. Well, we definitely will add that to our list.
Yeah, that is, and you will find that hospitality there. They are amazing brewers and amazing hosts. At least that's the way that they made me feel when I got there.
Yeah, that's high praise. It truly is. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Their
No,
lagers are out of this world good.
nice.
Out of this world good.
It's on the list. That's
Yeah,
I
it
love
definitely is on the list.
You can text me later and I can send you a link to it.
Sweet.
Perfect. Yeah, and Matt and I faced a little bit of what you were talking about too. One being pastors, right? And he was in Oklahoma forever. I grew up in Texas and New Mexico, so in that Bible Belty area too. And
Oh yeah.
even I remember early on in my ministry going to like Chili's and being like, I'm gonna have a beer, but I'm gonna put it way over here, right?
I'm gonna hide it behind the napkin.
Right. And when I moved to Montana 10 years or so ago, I served this little church in a town of about 150 people. It was one of three churches that I served. It was my church, the co-op, and the bar, and they had a post office. Those were the four businesses in town. And when I was introduced to my church, they said, the bar's right there. You're going to be there, right? Yeah, of course. Twist my arm, and they were like, that's our community hub. That's where the people are. We want you to go there. And that church was right in the middle of what they call the Golden Triangle here in Montana, which is all barley production. And beer was a way of life, or is a way of life up there. And they're like, we expect you to go and do this and be with the people. And I was like, these are my people.
Awesome.
And you're right. It just, being able to sit down and have a beer with people does something different than eating a meal or having a cup of coffee or anything else that we can do. And if we can model how to do that well and be in community well, my gosh, the conversations you can have, the relationships you can build are huge.
Yeah, really, for real. Yep.
Yeah, so Matt and I have had the privilege to be able to sit in those spaces and have the support of our churches, and I've got a group now that's the same thing. It's multi-generational of people just coming once a month to sit at the table to get to know each other, and they've been in this community together. They've sat in across the church from each other for years and never took the opportunity to know one another and hear each other's stories and to provide that space and to be a part of it. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's a
much fun.
magical moment when you can just relax in front of each other and know that you are in a common place and that we are just humans trying to connect. And when those walls come down, it's something magical. It's really cool.
So Austin, do you want to just like tell us a little bit like where like I know you guys have the the tap room, uh and do you have any other locations or anything like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, we have a brew pub that's downtown that has a full restaurant concept and a full bar and everything else, and it's a beautiful space. It's a great secondary avenue to us being able to stretch our legs in creativity and really expand what our company stands for. Um, and so it has it has brought a lot of it is one cool thing about the brew pub is when people come from out of town, they certainly come to the brewery, but more so they come to the brew pub. And so everybody coming from the airport goes straight to downtown. And what that has allowed us to do is meet people from all over the world on a daily basis and kind of get them associated with the not only uh, Tulsa vibe, but also the our mantra of being able to create a safe place for anybody in the world to come and relax. So yeah, that's our second location.
Yeah, that's actually I was gonna try to record there when I was there last, a couple weeks ago. I was gonna try to record there when we Zach and I had to record, and you guys weren't open yet, so
Yeah,
I had to wait because it was a little bit too early. I didn't realize how early it was when we were set to record, because I thought it'd been perfect to have that full circle moment
it would
of
have.
being in that
Yeah,
space.
and I apologize. We had just started our winter hours there because the brew pub is downtown, and lunch has always been really difficult, and so it's not viable for us to host lunch during the winter. So we just kind of threw up our hands on that one. Was
Yeah.
like we're not gonna take the risk on that one.
Yeah,
So
no, like I said, I was like, oh well, like I guess I should pay attention a little bit better than just assuming that. But awesome. We definitely want to honor your time, and we're grateful for you jumping on with us and talking about all that you guys do, and
yeah,
just some good thoughts on community for today. And so we'll definitely anytime you'd like to come on and talk about anything else, you're more than welcome to come on.
yeah,
We'll even try to get you
well,
some swag that we
yeah.
have.
No, you're
So.
good. I mean, I don't know if you have a time slot of how long you want your podcast to be, but I have about 10 more minutes if you, I've blocked off the hour.
Okay, well, I think we can bring it home. We always try to honor people's time, what we have them on, and just kind of I feel like that we want to get you where you need to be next. And I know they're probably going to be calling Zach here any minute, and
Yep.
I have a group of people who are probably knocking on my door even as we speak. Um, so Austin, or for our listeners, just to remind you, the brewery is Cabin Boys Brewery. It's You can definitely find it all over the state of Oklahoma and a couple other places close by. I know it's distributed in a few other places, but if you're ever in Tulsa, I definitely would encourage you to go to the tap house. Also go to the restaurant if you're able to. But amazing beer. I've never been disappointed in all the beers I've had there.
Well, thank you.
And even when I was a little nervous the first time I brought Zach to the brewery, and it was like right after COVID when we could be in the brewery, we had to still wear masks, and I was like, oh man, if this is gonna suck, we'll never live this down. But you guys didn't disappoint. And like I said, like I told you, anytime we're in town, or at least I'm in town, I'm always going to the brewery because I just love what you guys do in your space. And so listeners, thank you for listening. You can find us online at beardedtheologians.com, where you can find all of our past shows. You can find all of the swag and other things as well. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
And like this video. And push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.